Hello everyone, Spectre here back in another Marvel content champion. Today we're going over another champion concept, and this one being Thor Stormbreaker. So this is definitely a character that I've been wanting the game for a while. I'm sure a lot of people in the community have been asking for it. Well, I know of a lot of people in the community have been asking him. And yeah, I just basically said to my friend, like, yo, what concept should I do next? And he was like, Thor Stormbreaker. You know, Thor is his guy, so yeah, here I am doing Thor Stormbreaker. And as always, these are purely fan-made and are not real, etc. leaked. Again, I did that out of order, and this was just for fun. And something I started doing recently with these new champ videos is goals for the champ. So with Thor, I wanted him to be a hard-hitting attacker that also deals high shock burst damage. Alright, so Thor is obviously a cosmic character. He is a hero, size large, he is an Avenger, a god, Asgardian, and flying. Always active, Thor has unlocked his full potential, rendering all shock effects 100% less potent on him. Shocks also last 100% longer on him and grant him passive power gain. Thor's Asgardian physiology also grants him plus 25% poison and bleed resistance, and Thor's personal shock effects ignore energy resistance. So like no matter what, no matter how much energy resistance you have, you could be Guardian Sig 200, Absorb Man in his molten or in his magma form, and all shocks are going to deal the same damage across any opponent. The only way to get around it is to be shock immune or resistant, like specifically shock resistance and shock immunity. That's the only way to get around the shock damage. But if you just resist energy, yeah, that doesn't work. Basic attacks. All basic attacks have 50% chance to inflict the opponent with a shock debuff. If the opponent has an armor up effect, also inflict a passive shock per armor up effect. So he's going to be super crazy against like super armored characters, which makes sense because he's a cosmic class and a lot of tech characters have armor. If the opponent would be immune to shocks, Thor's shock effects, Thor gains a fury buff for X seconds. So even if you're going up against matchups where they are shock immune, Thor still is able to hit hard with the fury buffs, which make characters who resist shock more of a counter than champions who are immune to shock. Heavy attack. While holding heavy, Thor forces shock effects to expire quicker and speeds up the tick damage as well. Shocks that expire while the heavy attack is charging deal an extra burst of shock damage and grant Thor a Thorforce passive, granting him plus X attack rating and crit damage rating. So what you want to do, just your simple fight, no special attacks, is you just want to hit the opponent, put on some shocks, parry, hold that heavy attack, and gain your Thorforce charges, get some of that big shock damage, and you'll just be passively increasing your attack damage, and you will be getting some big yellow numbers. But going into the special attacks, so Thor zaps the opponent with lightning before leaping on top of them. Each lightning hit has a 100% chance to inflict the opponent with a shock debuff. If the opponent has an armor up effect, inflict an additional shock passive for each armor up effect present. So similar just how to the basic attacks. The final hit refreshes shock effects and grant additional effects based on the amount of shocks refreshed. So you got some utility here. If 5 or more shocks are refreshed, gain a grit buff for X seconds, so he could deal with Unstoppable. If 8 or more shocks are refreshed, gain an Undermine buff, so this allows him to counter Auto Block. And if 10 or more are refreshed, gain a True Damage buff for X seconds. Special 2, Thor hurls Stormbreaker at the opponent. Thor then charges himself with lightning and dashes forward with the opponent, beating them with his godly might. He then flies back and calls Stormbreaker back, which hits the opponent from behind. After the first hit, Thor gains a God of Thunder passive, which increases his chance of placing shocks on the opponent by 50%. God of Thunder is paused during heavy and special attacks. Melee hits inflict a shock debuff on the opponent. If the opponent has an armor up effect, also inflict a passive shock as well. This is pretty much the standard. Anytime he can throw shock on them, he inflicts a passive shock for the armors present as well. The last hit inflicts the opponent with a stun passive for X seconds and has increased duration for each shock effect on the opponent. Passive stun goes away if they are hit or if they are struck 2 times. So what you can do is you just build up a bunch of shocks on them, launch special 2, and kind of like how Shocker can charge his heavy attack and get this free value, expire all of the shocks. That's basically what, or not, he doesn't expire shocks. Shocker uses that to charge up his heavy attack, deal big damage. That's essentially what Thor does. He just forces all the shocks to expire, and then afterwards you have 100% chance to put shocks on the opponent, so you're just going to be doing massive damage. Alright, so the special 3 is pretty simple, but before that, Thor calls in Mjolnir, and together with it, and Stormbreaker. He casts a lightning blast like no other, and it basically just does big damage. You know, it's like makes the screen go white or whatever. You know, it's that powerful. It's like a god blast. But yeah, like I said, pretty simply, you know, Thor inflicts a permanent shock vulnerability passive on the opponent, max attack 3. So you get up to 3 of these. You know, just if it's like a really longer fight, like a big fight, you know, you might just want to go 3 special 3s, and then, you know, your shock damage will just keep getting more and more potent, and you will get bigger and bigger damage. So, you know, nothing too fancy there. That's mainly just for like really longer fights. And the Awakened ability, Channeling. If a shock expires, it has an X to 50% chance to reapply itself. So they can surely help with some ramping and some damage. But yeah, that's Thor Stormbreaker. I think he'd be really cool. A lot of damage. But yeah, that's Thor Stormbreaker. Let me know who else I should make in the comments below. And goodbye.